Yo, what is up? I don't know how I like start shows, but here we are. It's easy. It's Dark Sheep. It's Billy. We are talking baseball here on February 1st. The dinger on Underdog is 10% full, 90% not full. There's a new eliminator tournament. I don't know if we are going to get in, like, we can give our thoughts on like how that's different. But baseball's here. These guys have been talking it, for the past month or so. Projections, season-long projections are live. Pretty much all the major providers. I know Cardi was late-ish to the party, ATC. So yeah, of course, I'm here with a spreadsheet to take you guys through. Just wanted to kind of do a lay of the landscape. Guys we like, don't like, projection based or vibes based, looking at ADPs and kind of walk through that and then get into a draft. Thanks everyone for coming on. So yeah, we got patriotism. I've got my Team USA 27. This is not Mike Trout. This is a different Mike, or artist formerly known as Mike. If either of you guys know who that might be.
Sure, Mike Stanton.
Sure is.
I remember
Giancarlo Stanton.
Well, the random story. One of the first fantasy baseball things I did was the guy got me into a home run derby contest that his friend ran. You just pick your home run players for the whole season, and that was when he was young. And that's the only reason I know him as Mike Stanton, because he was on the sheet twice as Mike Stanton and Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah.
It took me forever to kick that, to switch over Giancarlo, because I couldn't even say it at first.
Yeah. I had to listen to John Sterling go through his little spiel there. Dogman likes baseball. So yeah, get right into it. Like, first I'll give a lay of the land for like what this spreadsheet is with a lot of colors. Someone asked if I was colorblind, so I changed the colors a little bit to match the Underdog exactly.
They look really good.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, basically, if you guys are not familiar with fan graphs, I don't know if I need to spend time going over it, but basically everyone in the industry uploads their projections, their season-long projections to fan graphs. For a long time, I've used it for like daily stuff, for Underdog and for, DraftKings and other stuff. But basically this pulls in ATC as an aggregator. I tend to think it's the best. You guys, if you guys prefer a different one, I think the BAT is pretty good. The BAT X I like, but Cardi's like volatile. ATC does a pretty good job aggregating and is, never the high man or the low man, which I find, is fairly good. And then you can kind of have takes there. But this basically what I've always struggled with. There's projections are great and exist in baseball, and then there's rankings, but how do the two come together, right? So yeah, it's basically what I set out to do, pulling in projections. Obviously, it's points based game, but also positions. We talk about outfield is basically like the wide receiver in NFL. It's positional scarcity. The first 10 guys in ADP in my rankings are all outfielders, and then it kind of dies very quick. So there's nuance there. So try and take all of that into account. Basically, value over replacement type model, looking at the 12th best, 24th, 36th best at each position, and kind of what your relative value is. So we'll get to all of that, but just rest assured I've tried to think of everything, and there's like a bunch of columns. But anyway, that's the boring stuff. If you want to hear the takes, here's where we're at. Round one, I don't know if you guys are like off the wall here. Everything is like fairly straightforward-ish to me. I don't think ADP is too bad.
I think one of the main decisions you have to make is Ohtani coming off surgery.
Yeah. And how much is that arm gonna be impacting like his playing time in total? Because this is a volume game, even though we're looking for spikes and he can hit a bunch of home runs. Will that impact him at all? I think it's interesting because I hear one of the decisions I take Judge over Soto, and I hear almost most people agree with that. And why is that ADP not flipped? I'm not sure.
Yeah, just like numbers based, I have like Soto comes out ahead of Judge, but I just always click the Judge button. tiebreaker, which I haven't pulled in here, is like all of the stats that correlate best with spike weeks is obviously Judge. It's all home runs, isolated power, etc. Obviously, Soto showed us, despite popular opinion otherwise, that he does have a really enormous ceiling in the final week of the season there. But yeah, I'm definitely team Judge over Soto. And I do have Ohtani actually 4. I prefer him to Mookie. I wouldn't call Mookie like an aggregator, but more so than Ohtani, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree that he can go 4 if he's healthy, and even if he's not, like, I don't have any problem with it. I'm personally landing on, I think I know you're big on Jordan, but the other one that I'm landing on a lot is Julio.
Yeah.
Just with that, just the power and speed combo, just what he showed like in that streak that he had last year too. I'm really trying to get more of him.
Yeah, if the last week was the first week of the playoffs, right? It was like, well, you didn't need him. You could have survived without him, but he was like the big cheat code in that first week of the playoffs. Obviously, his ceiling. He might have had the single biggest scoring week of any player. Maybe Ohtani had one bigger, but that was pretty huge.
And the other number that's important there is that 23 in the age column for him compared to the 31 and the Mookie. Just that room for growth potential.
Yep. Yeah. Anything else here? Like, do you guys? I mean, I'm fairly sure we're all like the 10 outfielders go. Like maybe like one. You know, I like Jordan. You know, a couple spots ahead. I think he gets docked a little too much for missing 2 weeks or whatever here in the total ranks. But anything else here for round 1?
I got Carroll last on that list, but and I almost have him down below Freddie and Matt Olson, but that's just probably an inherent bias from previous decisions made.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that opinion is based on the fact of like how cheap he was last year and how much value you got out of him versus like he is relatively appropriately priced, and that's what if they say he's 8th per ADP or whatever, kind of gonna take him 8th if you want shares.
Yeah, like I don't get much Carroll here. Oh, another thing that I wanted to look at here for me, like I like to think of it in tiers, and I'm trying to quantify it. I think Acuna is like very clearly 1-on-1. If he doesn't go 1-on-1, Numi should toss your draft. I think Soto and Judge are a tier, and then I think from Ohtani down to Kyle Tucker, you can, if you like Tatis, you can include him too. This seems to be low on him, but I think it's fringe. But like then it's a tier. Then I think it's like the infielders, and then it's like everything flattens out in round 2. For the way that I'm looking at it. Yep. So then like round 2, this is when you start to have the pitcher debates. People like the never pitcher guys, or I guess I've been starting to get people to convert to drafting some pitchers. And then you have to decide, are you taking I've been referring to Kyle Schwarber as Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith. If anyone plays 2 sports where you've I don't know if artificially is the right word, but you're pushing up, you're not winning an outfield, right? If Kyle Schwarber is your 1, I don't see a path to where he competes with those guys in round 1. But then you have to decide. You have to decide pretty early. Am I going to get buried at outfielder and try and win elsewhere? So we'll start there. Are you guys cool with let's say starting Freeman, Schwarber, or are you more interested in let me try and dominate pitcher or double infield? Where you at with the Schwarber decision?
I'm all over I'm not taking any pitching early. I'm a 0 pitcher through 5, pretty much standard, unless someone falls in 3 or 4 at a great value. So for me, I'm comfortable with taking Schwarber or even taking 2 of those outfielders. It's not ideal. It kind of feels ugly, but if you take them as both as your 1.5s, I feel a little bit better about it. But at that, I feel it's a thin line to take the 2 infielders and then being like, I can't access any of these good values in round 3 or 4.
Yeah, you have to. It depends on your room, which is kind of like a cop-out answer, but like ADP wise, it's like Brian Reynolds and Nolan Jones. You basically like if one of those falls to you at that 3-4 turn, you've survived, I think. Like passing on outfield. Otherwise, it's gonna be kind of rough. And then you're gonna have to really make up for it. And hammer it 5 through 8, which is doable, I think. So it kind of depends on your rooms. Like you can get bailed out with like a Nolan Jones slip, and it's a different conversation if you like them or not. I kind of do, but
yeah, for me it's probably about a 50-50 Schwarber or 2 infielders. Just the thing I want to do then with those infielders is set up, hopefully, maybe not those 2 infielders, but the next one to just set up like a team that I know has late outfielders to make like a like a small Boston stack, for instance.
Yeah,
just plan on doing like either Tyler O'Neill and Trevor Story or Duran or all 3 or something like that, and just say that these guys who have paths to a lot of playing time are on an offense that goes off together.
Yeah. It sure seemed like it was happening with Adam Duvall in April. And if that happens on the other end of the calendar, things look pretty different for sure.
Yeah, he showed it a little bit even when he came back. A week.
And you mentioned Nolan Jones.
Yeah.
I thought he was very interesting because the bullpen, the tournament before this, he was sitting like a round and a half earlier. And he jumped really quickly. And I think that was a function of those people that double tapped infielder or infield pitcher at the turn. And then they're like, who am I going to take as my outfield one?
Yeah.
And Nolan Jones can do that for you. I think we talked 2020 last year and an abbreviated season. So it was a very quick rise.
Yeah. Are you using the bat? I'm not. I mean, I don't know if ATC pulls from the bat. ATC is an aggregator. I forget the guy's name.
Ariel Cohen.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. I can, like, if I make this public, you can just like change, like it's just a link, like the projections. It's either called like bat or ATC or whatever, but I don't use the bat. Cardi's a little too volatile for me. Like I like to see who Cardi is like super high and super low on, but like sometimes he's just like, I don't know. He's better at this than me for sure, but sometimes he's just like comically off and like historically biased against rookies. Like there's a infamous Ronald Acuna debate if you guys are in those streets back in the day.
Oh yeah. The Manny Margot and Ronald Acuna.
Yes. So yeah, I think like round 2, my buddy struck out Nolan Jones in high school. That's cool. So yeah, like I haven't messed with this to say like, my takes on like, do I like Nolan Jones or not? And it actually shows Nolan Jones as a good or neutral value just because like how thin outfield gets in the, 7th round, let's say. So I think it like, I don't think it's too artificially boosted for Nolan Jones. I do think then you get like pretty dry, like teardrop after Nolan Jones. But anyway, I think like for round 2, like to put a bow on it, I think round 2 is fairly flat after, let's say, like Bryce. I think like these guys, like the top 4 infielders, like Freeman, Olsen, Whit, Harper, I think are fairly comparable in a tier. Then I think, Austin Riley's pretty good. But then it's just like this whole tier of like Jose Ramirez, Turner, Trout, like Randy, like they're all good and fine. I have a hard time necessarily picking. Like I kind of like Trout, but like I think it's relatively flat.
Yeah, the one I don't get is Jose Ramirez. Otherwise, I try to mix it around.
Sheep, is this breaking news to you?
Oh no,
you're a Brewers fan.
Is that true?
I hope not.
Orioles staff would look really good with Corbin Burns.
That would be very good.
I think is Camden Yards going to be slightly probably better than Milwaukee
very
too. Also, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so it seems like Passon tweeted it. Don't fall for the fake.
I fell for the fake Passon recently.
Let me see. Oh yeah, Rosenthal just tweeted it. All right, Corbin Burns to the Orioles.
Wow. That staff's kind of nuts.
Then. Yeah. I wonder if he gets a little boost here because people are excited. Anyway, I think like it gets like going to round 3. I think it's pretty flat, and then for me, this is when you start to get to the area of the draft where just from like a projections perspective, you just have some crazy ups and downs. I want to skip to Ellie De La Cruz here. This is obviously like a big conversation, like in the Roto streets. I think Cardi tweeted someone tweeted it like Cardi has him like 90th or something.
Yeah, he crowned him the worst value this year.
Yeah. So again, like buyer beware. For 22-year-olds with, half a season in the majors, like Cardi doesn't necessarily. They're also trying to get like median here, right? And like De La Cruz is one of those like average or mean is definitely much greater than the median. And I said it earlier in Discord, and I might start quoting this, is like first place pays $100,000 and advancing pays $10. So like if you're trying to advance, like De La Cruz almost definitely is not the safest pick, but like in a single week or in a single month, like he's got to be way, way up there. So this sheet does not like him, but it's not egregious. Like I'm fine taking him in the 40s. Sometimes he falls in like sharp rooms.
The Cincinnati problem is, or like playing time predicament is like actual predicament. They've got too many people this year. And so it looks like some good value, but I don't know who's going to play. And that volume does matter.
Yeah, for sure. I find myself, I'm like super bullish. Like A, it's like a obviously great ballpark, and B, I just like the team is very young. And a lot of it, like in guys that have shown even in small samples to be pretty good. So I've got like a bunch of really good value guys that I like on Cincinnati. That's the team that I'm probably stacking the most. But yeah, like someone here, like whether it's Christian Encarnacion or Spencer Steer, or if Jonathan India leaves, that definitely opens it up, which seems fairly likely. Noel Marte could be good or could just not play.
Seems like nobody wants India though.
Yeah,
no other team really wants him.
Yeah, so I think like I'm like probably neutral-ish on Ellie. I haven't clicked him yet, but I'm open to like I do want some Ellie here, and then like in round 4, this is where the rankings go off the rails for me, where the pitchers with like projectable volume, just like from a numbers perspective, like start to rise up, and then it's like, do you take the outfield, the 21st best outfielder to like try and compile, or do you take the 6th best pitcher? And that's a pretty hot button issue. So yeah, guys like Luis Castillo, Pablo Lopez, I have a bunch of, Gallon Wheeler, all grade pretty well, and then like guys like Castellanos and Teoscar, I'm like less hot on. But Billy, you're saying you're a 0 pitcher through 5 guy. Are you fine hammering outfield here, or are you going like with the Altuves and Goldies of the world in this range?
Yeah, I like the either land 0-2-3 or 0-3-2. That 0-3-2 with the 2 infielders is really fun because you do feel like your infield is so locked in, and you can wait for a while and just kind of get your 4th guy who is a value. It was like last year's data, like the optimal was definitely to run 0-5, and then anything that was like 0-10 was above advance rate. So that's where like my brain is at. I'm really kind of trying, you're saying like projectable volume, I'm trying to build it through like that middle tier and just having a ton of them. I'd sometimes slam 3-4 pitchers in a row starting like 9-10 round. So like it kind of just like build it a little bit through, like I don't know who it's going to be. I know I might lose one of them, so that's kind of how I do it.
The Burns deal is done.
Yeah, DL Hall and Joey Ortiz. I know DL Hall. I don't know Joey Ortiz offhand.
He's one of those guys that's like blocked by the current crop of young guys that are about to come up. So he's like the depth hot guy.
I think Hall's like a reliever, or at least he was this year. He's like a lefty, but
yeah,
you guys just don't want to pay Corbin Burns.
I have no. I may pay a stadium tax, but I have.
Yeah,
it's not like the Packers where you can own shares in it.
Fair enough.
Go to a meeting.
Yeah. And then something that's someone mentioned. It's like we had this. I keep going back to NFL because I do have more volume in drafts there, but it's like the wide receiver range. It's actually like last year randomly. It's like, why am I drafting these guys like in the 40s to 60s when I like all the guys in the 70s better? And I find like something similar in baseball. Maybe it's like I start to care less as you go down, but like this crop of like, I'll take the pitchers out because, you know, pitcher is less fun to talk about, but like in the 40s and 50s, there's a lot of guys that I don't love, but then once you get into like the 70s and 80s, I'm like, guys I'm really excited about, like Royce Lewis. I really like. I think Cody Bellinger, if he finds a good spot, obviously has a bunch of power. Evan Carter, you know, young guy, like one of the youngest guys in the pool and had a really insane debut. And I think is a little underprojected, pretty conservatively here. Jazz Chisholm, like, so for me, like this is a win. This is also why I'm hammering pitcher a little more in like round 4. Because I like these round 5, 6, 7 hitters a lot. What are you guys' takes here on like, you know, this range, infield, outfield?
It's mostly Cubs here, Happen, Suzuki for me for outfielders. Just I like that offense overall, and I just think they're both. They're not crazy great, but I mean, Hap's still 29, so I guess last year's probably his peak season. But if he can do 90% of last year, I think he's still a good price here. And Suzuki, I'm just waiting for him to finally be consistent and take a step forward.
Yeah, plus you have the benefit of like sometimes you get the wind blowing out for a week in Wrigley Field, and maybe that's just something I'm continuing to like sell myself on, but it's a wild card.
One other name that is really interesting, I think, is Manny Machado. Just based on, you know, he was going in that he's in that Devers Austin Riley group normally if he wasn't coming off surgery. And as far as I understand it, he should be ready to go at the beginning of the season, and they're going to DH him. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried about him.
Yeah. Bill, you were about to tell us about.
I was going to make a joke
about Wrigley.
I was going to make a Stephen Kwan joke, which is I kind of said I didn't hate the idea of him, but in Discord and kind of got roasted for it. But it is interesting where like when he showed that he's a green value, it's where it's like you have to take these projections and understand the format because that's a heavily volume based value where you need to kind of understand like not all of his points will count or they're not going to be that meaningful when you get other people spiking around him.
Correct. Yeah, and that's something that I want to build in. Looking at spike week categories, essentially, and I think people are probably bored-ish of spreadsheets, but basically it's exactly what you'd think. The numbers are exactly what you'd think they are. Home runs, isolated power, slugging are like 2 to 4 times more correlated than like batting average and, you know, things like that. So yeah, like Stephen Kwan's, you know, path to weeks that you need or even weeks that separate versus like a Jock Peterson type, you know, are much fewer than, you know, even someone like Jordan Walker, who again, like if you're just looking at median projections aggregated for a 22-year-old, oftentimes are not great, but like a Jordan Walker, like is totally fine. Like in the context of if you think he can outperform, 25 homers and 19 homers and 25 doubles, like, which he for sure can. Really good hit tool. Just a matter of like, it's not the best ballpark, and like, is he going to play the all year? But like, if he does, then I think he'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I think he's someone I don't love where he's gone in cost, but I think he is underprojected. I wish he was still back in the 80s or so. And then the other one, you mentioned Royce Lewis, who I think has that spike week opportunity, but for me, it's just a health decision that I'm mostly out on him for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you. That seems to be the trend for the Minnesota guys for sure. But like his slugging, like in this range, like it was projected, and what we saw in the second half of last year, like jumps off the page. Like no one, like 500 is a big number for a non-platoon guy too. So yeah, I don't like. Seems there's 8 in the Dinger lobby. Is there anyone else that you guys wanted to get to that you really love, really hate before we jump into a draft?
I don't think so. I'm trying to think. So your exposure screenshots and I think you had Taylor Ward was the one that seems like he could be a great value or a total flop this year.
Yeah, I've got this sorted by like guys most above like ADP, and I'm just Taylor Ward for me, like just the way the draft shakes out. I'm never done, but I would love to be done at pitcher. I think it's really hard to find 150 innings, at 160 ADP. I'm sure they'll be there. I'm just not confident in my ability to find it. And then Taylor Ward, if he stays healthy, like he's shown the year before last and even last year, he's like a good everyday guy with path to being better than that, like a late bloomer type, middle of the order. And like outfield gets really, I wouldn't say like it's pretty thin at this point. So like I like Taylor Ward, the guy who should play every day. If he's healthy, has a bunch of upside, and if he's not, he's your outfield 5. So that's kind of why I'm like overexposed in Taylor Ward. There's like a bunch of guys like Matt McLean is another one.
Yeah, that was the other one I'd call out from your exposure was Matt McLean.
Yeah, I mean he's 23, 24. Like he's not like the biggest prospect like pedigree. I wouldn't say. He's more of like everyday guy, plays good defense and is there. And then he like came in like slugged 500 kind of out of nowhere in his first, in his age 23 like major league debut.
He's the anti-De La Cruz on that team. Yeah.
Like you would think he's like glove first contact-ish, but like I mean he showed a lot of power year one. Obviously it's a good ballpark. It's a very rich range though. Like there's a bunch of infielders that can really make you happy there.
Yeah.
The pre-overflow.
Yeah.
Are we that popular tonight? Let's go.
Yeah. I'm trying to find out. Yeah. Is anyone still sitting in, like, do you guys want to take 3 teams or do you want to collaborate on one group draft? I guess we could have talked about that before we did, but
I'm fine with whatever. I don't need.
Yeah, I'm down for either.
We'll do it live. Is anyone still waiting? Anyone still waiting to let us know?
If we do need to fill, I can join.
I'll jump in one. 8 open. Okay. Open. If it's 8, then if it's 8, we might be best off all going in.
Yeah, 5 now.
Okay. This does not seem like enough return for Burns. Sorry, I'm a little distracted at the moment.
Yeah, no, understood.
That filled quick.
Ooh.
This might be a tough room.
Oh
Badge,
no!
badge,
All right,
badge,
I'm
badge.
10th. Here we go.
All right, we get an outfielder.
This is my buddy from
So Sheep,
Pete's
you're not in
Discord.
it.
It's
No, I did
great.
not get in.
That's fine.
I will be the judge.
All right, Sheep is advising in grading. So yeah, for me, it's like top 10 is fine. I'm starting to like. I think the mid range. Like if I had to choose, 101 is great. I think Acuna, like it for sure can just be like, you didn't have Acuna, you lost. So like if I had to choose my spot, like 101 is first, and then for me, like I kind of like 5, 6, 7, because I feel really good about, Ohtani, Jordan, Julio, all those guys. And then I think you have a chance at getting a really good round 2 guy. Versus like I think Judge and Soto are a tier above, but I think sometimes you might get like when you go down to like Randy and like Alonso, like they're fine, but I do think they're like a step below like having a chance at Bobby Witt, Austin Riley. So like my favorite spots are like middle to like 5 to 10 if I don't get 101. 11 and 12 I think is pretty bad, but
yeah, I like that too. Even then, when you get to round 3, because you can see what value might fall to you out of that other infield group. Maybe if somebody's pushing up outfielder. So yeah, I agree that middle area is nice.
Yeah, and then you could always be ahead of like the like Nolan Jones thing, or you can decide like how greedy or aggressive people are with like Adolis Garcia and stuff. But yeah, sorry, Billy.
No, I was just going to say like 11, 12 is the worst, unless there's like the people do dumb stuff in front of you, and then you can make it the absolute best kind of draft that you'll get is you'll get 2 of those kind of like elite outfielders, and then you're like just kind of cruising after that point.
Yeah. What's up, T? Kyle Tucker is a guy that I want to talk about because like I think he's really awesome at baseball. I am waiting to see if he puts more balls over the fence, and then he really did it in the playoffs, which is really cool. Except that I hate the Astros, but he wasn't a part of the Astros that I hate as a Yankee fan. But so Kyle Tucker, like my original run where you just look at points, like Kyle Tucker rates really well because he always, he hasn't gotten hurt yet. He's, on the younger end compared to the guys around him. But when I start to normalize for like missing time, like in this format, I'd maybe much rather have like 140 games from Jordan versus 155 from Tucker.
Yeah. Are you slamming Strider here?
I am.
Or are you going Witt?
I am. Even though this room might punish me, I gotta stick to the rankings if I'm gonna tout them at least a little bit.
Yeah, I'd probably go Witt there myself, but
I would have probably gone Harper though if he was there. But
okay, the thing that like the framework that you're talking, like it's kind of similar. Like thinking about that first group of 10 in a way of like, who could I be drafting 1 or 2 next year based on the results this year? And Kyle Tucker does not stand out to me as that. Maybe I mean, I absolutely love him. I've always been last few years where he's going like second round. I've been always over the field on him, but now here, like I'm totally fine with him, but I don't know that I see him like being number 2 overall next year, where everybody else I could, maybe not Mookie, but I could make a case for all the other guys.
Yeah, I think on a per game basis, he is at the bottom, which is why he's 10th. But I do think you get more out of him than Schwarber, a decent bit, and like the steals thing, like Kyle Tucker stole 30 bases last year, which is which is a lot.
Kind of surprising.
Yeah.
It's like everyone put up steal numbers last year, and you look back and you're like, the bar got kind of gets raised a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that there has been like a lot of conversation on like other content that I've consumed on steals. Like a lot of people are talking about like in relationship to projections. They're saying that the steals should be higher because they were last year. I'm interested to get what you guys think about that sort of general idea before I kind of have a thought about it, but hear what you guys think about that idea that projections could be underrating steals.
I think that's like it's with projections, right? It's like how are they made? Like how is the sausage made is always like a good question, and like historicals will always kind of bake into that. And if there's waiting too much, then I understand exactly what they're saying there, that the current year projections are definitely light. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of just assuming that what happened last year is going to happen again, right? They didn't change anything that would bring it the other way.
Yeah, I think I think there's probably more bias in the upside than is what is shown. Depending on because teams will have had and analytic departments will have had an off season to digest like the success rates and what that has impacted relative to, runs added or whatever metrics you want to look at. So I could totally see it skewing even more. Like it was probably like going into the year, teams probably had their thoughts on who has the green light and who doesn't. And, certain philosophies, like certain teams, never run or whatever. Like if some of those teams start to flip the switch and just seeing at success rates, like maybe it's hard. This is anecdotal, just kind of making it up, which is fun, but like, it just depends on it. Teams can adjust better in the off season than mid season.
Yeah.
And so this is,
well, you make your pick. Well, my thought is basically that I feel like even if they are under projecting, I don't think that they're under projecting people specifically different. So if you're going just relative scoring to the whole field, it'd be everyone. But I do plan on asking somebody who's going to have a different idea on that this week or next week on the Stacking Dingers show. So it's a little teaser.
Nice.
Yeah, interesting. I know you guys said that you're going to have a special guest this week. I'm particularly interested in who that'll be. You don't need to tell us any spoilers.
He's been talked about tonight. I'll say that.
Ooh, I think I know who you're talking about. I was about to say, like, I thought he was talking about steals and how he was projecting them on Twitter. Nice. That's a big get.
Yeah.
So now I obviously couldn't take an outfielder here at 15. I mean, I suppose I could have, but like, this is where, in this kind of room, you just get completely boxed out. And I took the Camden Yards increase for Corbin Burns there.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is when I have to be a man or not. Because I don't really like these non-pitchers, and I don't like starting 3 pitchers in a room that's going to continue to give me pitcher. Lindor.
For me, it's you can take Lindor. It's probably Goldschmidt there.
Yeah.
But then I am committing to paying the price on Jordan Walker, probably.
Yeah, it's not the perfect room for my strategy here, but sometimes you're the hammer and sometimes you're the rake.
It's like kind of like a fragile build, and if it works, it'll be awesome, but it's kind of tougher to complete.
Yeah, actually, Gunner might be decent there too for that same plan of paying the price. Stuff. Yeah, on Santander if he gets there.
Congrats. Letting the ATL stack, who's got the Olsen Albies. I mean, Albies falling there is nice for sure. I've been we can talk stacking. I know you guys on Second Dingers have talked about it. I know Baseball's been, teasing some stuff there. I think it definitely matters and is important, and like you can't really argue it. But I've just had a hard time like doing it, because I spent so much time trying to quantify how much stacking matters, and like as it relates to like how far do you reach for a stack? Like for example, here like Castellanos, right? Let me see, like where do I have Castellanos ranked? Like I have Castellanos ranked 55, but like does 55 and his ADP is like 49, but like does 49 become 35 if you have Bryce Harper and you just say, the Philly smasher in really good environments and, in August? I don't know. And I wish I did.
So if you don't mind me asking, I know your football sheet did have stacking built into it. So did you find that to be easier to figure out how you thought about how to quantify that stacking effect?
Yeah, because for football, it's easier because it's single games. And there's a lot of data around single game correlations, both for teammates and for opponents. And there's, season long. So like for baseball, I think it would be not that hard to look at historical season long. I think people don't talk enough about like season long correlations, where just like, the Braves are the easy example, but like, let's say the Reds, A, like the ballpark is great, and B, let's say like Jonathan India gets traded, everyone else like gets a correlation boost. And let's say like, McLean or a couple guys at the top of the order get on often. That's a correlation boost all year for their teammates, and like just teams overperforming, whether through individuals or like, ballpark environments or whatever. So like, I think all of that, like you could probably get like historically, like how much teammates correlate, but for the weeks, that's where I've had a hard time digging into the data of like how often, like if Acuna has a big week, like what does that mean for Sean Murphy and Ozzie Albies and for everyone else? So I've not settled on like quantifying that yet. Like I really want to, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah. And one thing I'm curious. Go ahead.
Oh, the way that Chris did it was he took each week and sort of made its own tournament, sort of like Leone did.
Yeah.
And basically it went up to like a 4% advance rate on a week, like considering a week as a whole tournament, and having that same advance percentage. It could go up to like a 4%, which even doesn't sound like a lot when you say it like that.
I know. So I really like Evan Carter, but I think I'm going to play in
I've been like trying to think through, and I don't know if I have any data for it right now. Is like how much does like batting order matter? I know on a daily basis it would matter a lot, right? And this far out, how stable will batting lineups be? Probably not that great, but maybe in the core of a lineup it could be. And so there's like roster resource, which is pretty good. There's MLB playing time, which is pretty good as well. They have the platoon sides of it. So I've been kind of trying to think through that a little bit.
I knew I wasn't going to get Evan Carter back, but I have V and Hap a lot higher. So sad, but I get a little mini stack here with Hap and Suzuki, who Sheep likes. But yeah, like we were talking about, I know we were talking about in Discord, like Michael Harris. So like if you were to do a correlation based on, April 1st batting order versus, August, it just depends on a lot of things, which is kind of a cop-out answer.
My problem is I don't think that batting order is that you can't predict it for that, like that far out.
Yeah.
Just the way things change. But
yeah,
you mentioned Michael Harris. Like he reminds me of pre Kyle Tucker. That's why I've seen that this year, and I think I'm sort of making a bet that he gets a better lineup position, which is not going to get projected into anyone trying to do lineup projections.
Yeah, and I think so. Thinking of like there's inputs to projections, right? Like player talent and offensive environment, all of that. But like baseline, people are projecting Michael Harris will bat 7th. Let's say, I don't know if it's 6, 7, 8, or 9, but like it's certainly like they're not projecting to bat 1st or 2nd, but like at that point, there's only upside in his playing time, and similar to maybe this is not a great example because Cedric Mullins is probably similarly projected like in the bottom half of the order, but I was trying to argue like someone like Cedric Mullins has platoon risk that like may be embedded in, but like it's hard if you're projecting Cedric Mullins, for example, for 600 or 650 plate appearances, like there's only that, like the upside is like 20 or 50 PAs, like if that, and like there's a lot of downside if for some reason they like acquire a righty or decide to bench him, a little more, platoon him. So like a guy like Michael Harris, where he's not going to lose his job even against lefties because of what he does in the outfield. Plus, they don't have anyone. Like there's more upside, right, if he climbs the order. But then there's guys that have like platoon risk that might not be in there, or guys projected to bat 1st that can like only lose that, right? Like I don't know, like Asterio Ruiz, for example, where like if something goes wrong, he goes from like 1 to 8, yeah. So that's why you have to be careful with like batting order aggregator only guys like Stephen Kwan. If they stop hitting, like,
yeah. So the guy I think about when we're talking about this like batting order mattering is Dansby Swanson. So if you go over to Fangraphs and look at his 2020, 2021, and 2022, a lot of the underlying stuff is like eerily similar. But then in 2022, he had a prime leadoff position with Acuna out, and he put up close to 100 runs and RBIs compared to the 80 that he did those other 2 seasons on like the same sort of underlying numbers.
Yeah.
I actually played against Dansby Swanson when I was in high school.
Nice.
He grew up near
pedigree than I have. All right, I've got the Stephen Kwan conundrum here. I'm gonna take the ADP value on Christian Walker there.
Nice.
You already kind of have a fair amount of compilers on your team. They do have some, not necessarily compilers per se, but people with volume. It's not like you need to chase that. No,
yeah, like there's I will admit there is a time and place for Stephen Kwan. And like at this point, like the brand play is too strong. I'm just not gonna probably ever go there.
Yeah, right after you posted that, soon after there was a draft with a bunch of the people from Discord, and he dropped like 20 spots. So you got that influence.
It's a market mover.
Yeah.
So now this is when I have to decide. My next pick is 106. If Matt McLean's ADP is 106, and now I'm talking to a room of people, I'll stick to. Oh yeah, I'll just take her.
Now go right back to the board. Don't let anyone see that.
Yeah. That's all right. I've got like 80% McLean so far.
Arenado, if you're going off projections, is always a classically lower projecting guy than his actual output.
Yeah. So let me. All right, I want to flip around. Let me open a tab. So Arenado is going to be my example for I love and respect Cardi. Love is strong. I respect Cardi, but this is why I don't use his stuff.
Yeah.
It's like Nolan Arenado's Fangraphs page. Everyone zips 454, kind of low. But I'm just looking at slugging, just to boil it down to one number. Steamer 466, Fangraphs depth chart, which is just average, I think, of Steamer and zips 460, ATC 474, the bat 470, the bat X 423 slugging. So, I think the bat X is like really cool. And a lot of times it's like it could be a good source to see like look based on, and I think this uses like batted ball data is what the difference is between this and the bat. It's like it's good to see like who's super high or who's super low relative, but like this is just, I don't know, for me this is like a little crazy. And maybe he'll be right, but like he's just projecting Nolan Arenado to have the worst season of his career, like by a lot.
And it has projected that every year.
Yeah. So he might be right, but that's why I think it's a little too aggressive for me to use as my primary.
Yeah, like all last year, using the bat for dailies or the bat X for dailies, like pretty consistently. It's the Cardinal stack is Paul Goldschmidt, William Contreras, Lars Nootbaar if he's facing a righty, then Nolan Arenado. Like that. That's how extreme it is compared to. Yeah, compared to the rest of the team too.
Yeah. And speaking of projections, there's a guy, Jackson, is it Trio? He is sick, and the projections don't like him because he's 20 years old, or maybe he's like 21. So this is one where, like, if I don't monkey with things, he's 19. Like, if I don't go out of my way to like boost him, like I'll have none of him. But that's just a profile where, like, at this part in the draft, projections are cool, but like sometimes you just like feel it in your plums when a guy can just go off in a way that median doesn't capture. Like, I think you want to be exposed to him in, best ball format. But what are your guys' thoughts? Like, where's the right price for Jackson?
Well, I mean, I'll let Billy talk, but lead him because he made that chart for Corbin Carroll and like the advance rate based on where you picked Corbin Carroll last year as he rose. So I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, that was cool.
But my idea on prospects is that I'm just like across the board out because the failure rate is so high. So that maybe the wrap it up in two layers deep sort of approach to drafting, but I want to not. I don't want to get that many. I don't want to make a decision that has that high of a miss rate.
Yeah, I was gonna say that he's like a tantalizing prospect, but I haven't heard anyone say that he is going to start like the whole year. He has a big. What you got a big deal, right? As a minor leaguer, and that, I mean, that speaks volume to like how highly they think of him. But I want someone to say he's going to start from day one, and then I'll draft him like everyone else did with Corbin Carroll last year, and just let the steam happen.
Yeah. I'm like, at this point of the draft, I think like everyone has permission to like draft your guys, and like, does, pick 100 maybe is rich, but like 120 versus 160, like historically doesn't mean a whole lot. Like the guy, like I try and think of it like binary, which may be wrong, but like he's either going to be good or not. Right. And if someone is like mediocre at like pick 160, like I guess on paper, that's fine. But, if you're looking for like hits or misses, if he's a miss and you get him at 160, it's like, still a miss. So I'm just chasing basically, like selectively. And he's on my list, my reach list. But it's hard to get all the way up, like hard to chase him. I do prefer him quite a bit pitcher. To some other guys though.
I think the exception is pitcher. I don't know, maybe like, cause Blake Snell started in this range at some point last year. Like, I think there's the potential to have a real high riser in pitcher in this, in that range, that 100 to 140, more so than 120 to 140. Just somebody that takes all the right things come together for them. Like, yeah. I mean, Merrill Kelly is an example of that last year.
Yeah. I was going to say, talking about like rookie outfielders in this range, I much prefer Jackson. And I should stop saying, I should learn how to say his last name, because Jackson Holiday is also, like, it just so happens that the two best prospects in baseball both named Jackson. But the Brewers Jackson, I much prefer him to Wyatt Langford, which is somehow becoming like a controversial take in these parts. People are really excited about Wyatt Langford. And, I'm not convinced that if you talk about like guys that I'm not convinced have a starting spot week one, there's no money paid out in week one. I get that, but it still would be nice to know where he might play on a team.
For sure. Although, I mean, the question is that you have to debate now, especially with those two guys, if they come into spring and they look hot, where are you going to have to draft them? Should you take them now and just call it a win or a loss based on their spring?
Yeah, if they get locked into jobs, because like Langford's projection is like 100 games. If that gets moved up to like 130, 140, like he'll, regardless of what you think of his talent level, which I think is pretty good, he's going to shoot up if he's going to make the opening day. But he's another case. Like, I want to say he's a bad fielder or anything. Because like I don't know. Like he's like fast. What I'm getting at is like I know he's fast, but I don't know that he has a spot in the outfield because they have like 3 good young-ish outfielders already. So it's like, is he at age 22, like 70 speed guy going to DH like opening day? Like how infrequently does that happen? So maybe I'm just like not open. Like my brain is too stuck in the past there. Yeah, roster resource has him opening day DH. He's not an elite fielder, but DH spot. Yeah, maybe this is me just being a boomer and like I can't see like the 22-year-old 70 speed outfielder playing DH, but like, if he's one of their, 9 best bats, they might just throw him on the team, right?
Yeah, who has
pretty jacked.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just how many innings he even has in the minor leagues. Obviously, the idea is, he played college in competitive college games that, he's a step ahead of like another similarly young kid who comes out of high school. But yeah, it's hard to know. And that's where I just tend to be like, I don't want to be wrong. And that's, like I said, I don't know if that's right, but it's just how I've always treated it.
Yeah. Median, you'll be right. It's just, does he have a path to like, I don't know. Like he's a really good prospect. He's top 5 pick in the draft. It's just playing time and like, does he start? If he starts opening day, it's going to be a smash, I think. But if he doesn't, might be waiting a while, and it's pretty rich. Like you're drafting him as a starter, or borderline starter. Christopher Morel, I don't know, like if he's an everyday guy.
So he's essentially the utility guy, but everyday player.
Yeah,
he doesn't have a spot. Defensively,
he's got some big time pop too, right?
Yeah. And I've got my little Cub stack going here. Just how often am I going to have 3 Cubs outfielders taking my outfield spots? Is that something that you guys think about? Talking about stacking, like this might be too overthinking, but like I've now taken 3 Cubs outfielders, and you can only start. Well, I guess you could start 4, but like, how often are you going to benefit from the stacking? Or like it might be a little, the cop out answer is like it's ping pong. Like some weeks it'll be Happ and Morel, some weeks it'll be Happ Suzuki, some weeks it'll be Morel and Suzuki, and like you guys are fine with that. Like, is that something you think about? Like not taking too many same position, same team partners?
No, I'm kind of not overstacking any team, right? I'm kind of trying to get 2 or 3 mans, never like a 5.
Yeah, I went through a period of DFS where like I had convinced myself that I couldn't do that on any lineup. Like I'd set rules, like can't have 3 outfielders from the same team. And I don't know what I think about it now. Just like either ping pong or then just correlation. Like how often is your third outfielder going to be a smash anyway score?
Right.
Like, are you just getting that floor up on that third guy on those weeks that they all do well?
Yep.
But I don't really think about it. I can't think of a team that I really take three outfielders from. I think it would probably happen more to me in infield.
Yeah. Yeah, this the first time that I've like consciously thought about it, but I guess I have a trade out. Unless the outfield is blowing out in Wrigley, in which case please stay.
Yeah,
Chip's got 3 Orioles infielders. That's one that probably is more on the common side.
I've built out my team around stacking. If you wanted to take a look at what I've done,
yeah,
kind of did it for the bit. And I also built the pitching the way I kind of like it too, intentionally.
Yeah. Oh, nice, Vladdy, Bo. Varsho's a guy that I really like, especially in stacks and hitting outfield with the early infield investment there.
Yeah, built around Toronto, Vlad, Bo, and Varsho. Built around Tampa Bay and Randy and Yandy. Got Miami open, which is with Jazz for
Easy
later.
to fill, yeah.
Yeah, so from a stacking perspective, I kind of did this. I was going to do this or Baltimore because people have talked about Baltimore in the Discord today, but that Gunner went before I could get him.
Yeah, and that, I guess it's like there's so many things to think of. I think it's less. The framework is more open than in others in like NFL, where NFL you kind of have like your checklist and your rule book, and like the star method infamously led Chip to take Orlando Arcia in like the 120th pick or something earlier today because he was stacking Braves. So that's why like I don't super prioritize stacks. It's like if someone is like on the first page and it's like, oh yeah, I have 2 Cubs already, like I'll add it. That's just me so far, but yeah, it's like interesting. Like there's guys that I'm finding myself clicking a lot. Like, oh, I know, Max Kepler, for example, in Edward Julian or something, right? And it's like, oh, there's 2 twins that I like late. Great. There's like Jake Berger and Brian De La Cruz. Like I know, like I can earmark, like you can reach around on those types of guys too. It really doesn't matter. It's like if you could think of like, there's certain like Oakland has a couple of late guys. I don't think they have any early guys, but like there's times where you're like, I know in round 18 and 19, I can easily tack on like 2 twins or 2 Marlins or whatever it might be. So you can like fairly easily plan your draft. Thanks for taking Taylor Ward there.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
you gotta let your exposure be like kind of normal.
You mentioned Oakland ADP. Something I was looking at today is I took like the top 5 projected hitters. I used BATX on each team and just like looked at the average ADP versus the average like or the sum of the points of those guys. And Oakland's on the bottom. They're 5. Their average ADP is 240, which is probably skewed because I just put 300 in for anybody that didn't have an ADP. I don't even know if they have 5 guys that have ADPs.
No, I think
I like both of them. I like Rooker. I like Gallup.
Yeah, I do too. I try and stack them, but that feels like it's simple and easy, which doesn't make it bad. But
my problem is that Oakland isn't even incentivized to play their best players at like a full amount. Like
you got to show off the kids though, right? Always,
I guess, but they don't really have any. I mean, we saw it do it last year. Like they did some really silly stuff, calling up people and playing the kids that actually were kind of good at all. So I don't know. I just don't trust their playing time, even though that there's a ton of playing time available.
I think I've got to take Stanton for the bit here wearing his jersey. And I do have Glaber, so a little Glaber Day. Giancarlo stack there. Should have known Kerry Bonds. Was going to go here. Tigers fan.
That's
repairing.
That's one I just I don't really get.
You don't get Kerry Bonds?
Yeah, maybe I feel like I've missed something here.
What do you think? He doesn't have like power? What is it?
I just don't know what his role is on Detroit. Yeah, I'm obviously wrong here because I'm the only one.
Right. Roster source has him hitting 4th DH against righties, but like, is he going to sit against lefties? Like they do the Matt Vierling thing, and like Andy Ibanez, like guys that are just like lifers that suck. But you know, maybe have a path to like they just let Kerry figure it out versus lefties because he's young, and like, did they just pay him? Or not yet? No, he's still got minor league options, so I don't think they've paid him yet. But yeah, I think that there's a path there to like him playing more. And when he does play against the righties, he's a really good hitter, and it's like outfield. Like outfield gets very shallow here. So if you're talking about a guy with like slug 470, yeah, they paid Colt Keith. They haven't paid Kerry yet, but Kerry's a little older. But like 25, like if he plays, it's like 20 home runs is like, I don't know, flourish. Like if he doesn't get benched, with paths to 30, I think, which is pretty nice at outfield. It's not, should you have like 50% of him? Like, I don't know, maybe, probably not. But I do think like there's a tier break after him until you get to like the Matt Wallner guys where you're just like a total gamble. Like, is this guy going to play at all? Like Kerry's not going to lose his job, I don't think.
True. Yeah, but we can get Matt Wallner later. But yeah, that is true. And usually I'm trying to be done with outfield by now,
or maybe one more. But
yeah. For me, like on this team, I have the round 1, and then I skipped it for a bit, and a couple that I feel good about, and a couple not darts, but this is one. This is a 6.5 for me, which is like every draft. But it kind of, if I'm not excited about names, like I'm fine leaving this at 6. Because I have like the 2 aces. Like this is probably a 6 pitcher. This is probably a 6-7-7 for me. Yeah. I do like. It's probably wrong. I almost exclusively do 6-7-7s, and I know 7 pitchers is fine too. It's just like I've been drafting 2 pitchers sooner than most. So I've been stopping at 6. But Billy, I know you were looking at, you have the advance rate table. What's your kind of distribution of like 7-6-7s versus 6-7-7s?
I've been doing a lot of 7s, and Baseball came out with like an interesting chart today about how like pitching kind of just they die. You're going to lose one, maybe 1.5 pitchers on average by the time the year is over, just not being live anymore. And if we're building towards the end, I'm going to try to have as many bullets at a position that seems to be the most random and kind of dictating by 2 starts. So a lot of 7s.
Yep. This is where the draft gets like really flat, I think. And
for sure,
you can kind of take, like, I'm fine reaching for guys that I like. Nick Pivetta is not necessarily that, but there's a lot of infield outfield, and I think pitcher gets pretty weak, and there's, guys behind me had fewer pitchers than I did. Go LA Dodgers, we're the team to beat in the face of the MLB. It's Dodgers and LA fans. Take care. Thanks for coming by. Better luck to you this year than the past 5 or in the playoffs outside of the COVID year, I should say.
Well, they got a 9-man starting rotation now, so I hope they can get there, right?
Yeah. So this is where I'm gonna reach for my guy Nolan Gorman.
I think he's a name that stood out to me as a note that I feel like the field is starting to get a little bit sharper or use projections more, because he's come from the last 3 weeks. He's come from that 210, 220 range to now he's 190, and I think where you took him will he'll be there soon enough.
Yeah.
I do think we're getting a little more volume in, and that these pitchers also in this area, like the guys from those the 1920 round that have a little bit of maybe a path to the 150 innings, or they have 130 and good strikeout rates.
Yeah.
They're kind of settling here. Like it feels like the field is pulling out these final rounds a little bit better than they had like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. The guy that I was going to take, I took Trevor Story there, but I was going to take Jake Berger, and he's been one of those guys who
Me too.
I think has been rising a lot. And people are realizing that he ran into 30 plus home runs last year and could easily do that again. And I've been looking late. I've been looking at like one of the stats I love is just like home run rate. Spikes, home runs are like 10 points in this format. And that is just like this outsized number compared to kind of the other counting statistics. So if you have a guy who can run into 2 or 3, 4 home runs in a week, it's just gonna be like, what just happened? And he's one of those guys.
Yeah. I mean, 34 home runs last year is like entering his like theoretical age peak. He's like sort of a late bloomer there. Yeah, and he's a guy like really easy and fun to stack. Could for sure see like if he just repeats what he did last year, he pays off this tag and then some. Like he's probably like 4 or 5 rounds too cheap for what he did last year with 34 home runs. So, people are probably baking in too much regression or like he's not exciting, but I don't know. And Nolan Gorman, he's like, I didn't even realize this. He's only 24. Last year was his first year like sticking it out in the major leagues. It was kind of positionless, like third base prospect that, like was going to go to first base, but like Arenado and Goldschmidt, like you're kind of screwed there at St. Louis. And now they just stuck him at second, sort of like little league-ish where it's like, hey, nobody hits the ball to second base. Just like go play there.
That's where I got to play in the infield when I played.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're the
I started
least
second
liability
right field.
here.
But yeah, I like Gorman. I don't think he'll play much against lefties, but yeah.
My right field dandelion picking was like top notch Statcast.
Gonna go Kepler here. I've long liked Kepler, and then I always pick him in DFS, and he literally grounds into a double play with the bases loaded every freaking time. So
kind of the Wallner Kepler conversation together. I was reading there's an Athletic article today that the money that they cleared in the Polanco trade, they said they're going to spend, which probably means a center fielder. Sorry if Yumi's still here, but Buxton's not going to play center field much of the year.
No.
Despite them saying that. So I don't know if that. And the article goes through a list of the available guys left that are sort of in that price range, but I do think that's a danger to the playing time of those lefties.
Julian gone. Dang. I was hoping to do
Sorry
a little
about that.
Julian stack there. No worries. Lance Lynn, come on down. And then I could be down a pitcher.
So you're comfortable with Lance Lynn this year, or you're just taking him?
No, I'm just taking him. Like I wish I was done a pitcher sooner, but I never am because it's a really fun like hitter window here. I think I don't like Lance Lynn, but it is, even though I do have 2 Cardinals, like it's a good ballpark, and like you just hope to run into innings here, and like as a SP6, like I think he's fine. If nothing else, like he's an innings eater. And I don't think like the Cardinals have much else that they can do. Like they're not going to be competitive, but they also they don't have a history. Maybe I'm just like sticking to tired narratives, but they don't seem to have much of a history of like kicking the old guys out of the rotation or the lineup. Looking at, Yachty and Wainwright and stuff, Lance Lynn is like a blast from the past for them. So I don't think they'll kick him out even if he has a 6 ERA again. So
they have like a
give me the innings.
particularly old team this year, like the pitching staff.
Yeah, they signed Matt Carpenter to a 1-year deal instead of a 1-day deal like they should have.
Oh, so Steven Matz is their youngest pitcher at 33. Sonny Gray 34. Mikolas 35. Kyle Gibson 36. Lance Lynn on the border of 37.
I do like Sonny Gray in that park. Big fan of him in this contest.
Sonny Gray at any team but the Yankees, I think, is obviously pretty good. The Yankees just decided to have him, I don't know, with his breaking pitches and cutters or whatever, but this is ranked for a different day. Future, if the Yankees ever trade for an Oakland Athletics starting pitcher in the future, you should fade that player. There's a long sample there.
Actually, that's interesting. Like, have you guys got to Montas at all in this contest?
I haven't thought about him.
Okay.
What's his role going to be this year?
He should be a starter if his body's okay.
In Cincinnati.
Yeah. I mean, not the whole situation isn't very great, but there might be some magic there. I don't know. I may have like him 1 or 2 of him.
I haven't gotten there yet. He seems unlikely to burn me, but literally any year but last year, he would actually be pretty good. Or, the 2 years prior. He probably shouldn't. He's like one of those guys, like he shouldn't go undrafted. Like he should be drafted more than like 1 to 5%, but it doesn't mean that I'm the one who's going to click his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the spot where it's like I have room for an outfielder, but like who here has any upside? Like Tavares, I think, is like youngish, and I like switch hitters because of stupid reasons.
I think he can just be a consistent 9th guy on that Texas outfield and just in the lineup, just bat 9th every day and benefit from the other guys.
Yeah. I scrambled to move McMahon up so I can get Charlie Blackmon here and see if we can get some year 39 magic.
I'm all out on Blackmon.
That's probably correct.
I'm throwing darts at like Montero and Goodman over that.
Goodman, is he catching?
No, Goodman.
Or am I confusing him with who am I confusing him with?
The catcher is Elias Diaz.
Yeah, well, Hunter Goodman was a catcher, maybe prospect.
Oh, maybe he could be.
He's probably going to play outfield.
He's probably going to play outfield. He's an infielder in this though.
Okay.
And he does not project at all very well. It's just that when he came up last year, he was leading all of the minors in home runs. So just a fun, silly click.
Yeah, that's not bad. Is there any outfielders here that make sense for me? Brennan Doyle has like no upside, I don't think. What if Charlie Blackmon is the guy you need 1 week in August? I don't know.
All right.
Oh, that was a bad click.
I don't know if there are bad clicks in round 20.
Yeah. Nope. I don't need to zoom in on me. That's for sure. I'm trying to
So I don't know, without looking, now that Corbin Burns is gone, do you guys know who the number 2 pitcher on the Brewers staff is? We got Freddie Peralta is now
it's not Aaron Ashby, is it?
He's still technically hurt.
Okay.
I don't.
It's Wade Miley.
Oh no.
Freddie Peralta. This is what roster resources have. They have some guys at AAA, and Mizorowski, who just I think was in AA last year. There's some interesting names like in the minors. I don't think they're ready, but this 5-man that roster resources has is Peralta, Wade Miley, Colin Ray, Joe Ross, who I didn't even know he was on the team, and now DL Hall is projected as the 5. So maybe this means that Aaron Ashby is going to be ready and that we should start taking him, but I'm depressed.
I don't think he paid Hoskins much, but like, how or why do you sign Hoskins, who's like only going to be there for, a year or two, and then you trade like your actually good players?
I mean, it's just we tried to get to the wild card. That's the Brewers' motto. Like, they don't even have to get it; they just have to be able to say that they tried.
Was it the worst? Was it sneakily horrible franchise move for CC Sabathia to happen, because now it gives you like false hope that like, hey, you can catch lightning in a bottle and overcome all sins?
No,
the right guy.
Because
that was pretty sweet run.
That was a great year. I was in college at that point, and that was awesome.
Him hitting was just the best.
Yeah, I missed that. I missed that for sure. Maybe hot take-ish, but I'm okay. You should have like let pitchers hit for like a week or two or something. I want to taste.
My dad and I actually went on a baseball stadium road trip that summer. Before that, and we found CC in the clearance rack. So I got the CC T-shirt, Indians T-shirt that I would wear to games.
Sweet. I love CC. I think he's going to go in the Hall soon. I don't know what hat he'll wear, but that's a conversation for a different show.
Yankees. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the 09 on the 09 team. Turn me up. All right. You wanted to do some, family roast and get out of here?
Yeah.
5'8",
7. That's fine.
I don't have any 5'8". I don't have any 5s.
No.
Yamamoto, Grayson, Logan Gilbert, Cole Reagans, Yuri Perez. I don't know. Like, the investment is there, but man, I don't think this innings pitch profile is one that I feel great about for a 5-pitcher team. It is very young.
No,
I'm all over Reagans. I was just gonna say I'm all over Reagans this year. But in this room, this is a weird team because there was pitching value like available.
Reagans is sick, but it's gonna be tough to like the parlay you have to hit for like Yuri Perez, Reagans, and Grayson to all get to like 180 or even 160 innings in the same year. I think is like tough.
And Yamamoto, who you spent the most on.
But let's see. Devers, old school. I was going to say the Boston Sack. Devers, Xander, Rhys Hoskins, Contreras. A lot of volume at field. Soto, Louis Bob, Santander. Yeah, it's like in 150. Like doing weird stuff is fun. I don't know.
I would just never do this. That's how I'd roast that. I'd never do this.
They had fun. That's what we can say.
All right, Brad. Where's Brad?
Chip.
I lost this draft. Thanks, Chip. Aaron Nola. All right, yeah. So Chip would say that Brad already lost Nola as his ace. Kirby, I really like. Like as a pitcher, I don't know versus ADP off the top of my head, but I like him. Bradish. This is the window where a lot of guys you're like, oh, I can sell myself the story like this pitcher window. I see, like zoom in a little more, but yeah, Stroman like that gets gross down here. Oh, this is the LE. There we go. Bobby Witt, Semien, Eli Casas, Gelof Tovar. What's up, Sheep?
I was gonna say Eric Fetty got on that staff, and I've just been reminded recently that he did come back to the U.S. this year after pretty decent run in KBO. So interesting. Is he the Merrill Kelly type to like come back and do good or not? I don't know. I have to dig into that more. Yeah.
Bobby Witt, Semien, De La Cruz is nice. And then Corbin Carroll, Josh. I don't even pretend to know if it's low or low. I know the bad pros have sorted it out. I have not. in the Red Sox stacks. Chris Bryant is one that like I haven't clicked yet, but I'm like open to it. Like if he can hit the ball in the air, I just don't know that he remembers how. It's probably been like legitimately like 4 years since he's done so, maybe 5.
Yeah. There was a period of time where I was backing on Bryant, but I got myself off that. I'm out. Like just plantar fasciitis, back problems, like both those things linger, and they obviously affected his power when he has been playing.
This is a tough outfield room. This is a tough outfield room even for me.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Is like the pitching, yeah, that's fine. Infield, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, pitching is good.
Outfield, and it's just like
I think Casas. If you flip Casas to an outfielder, instead of like like Newbar can be an infielder or something, but nitpick is pretty good. The Terrence win. Let's see. Pablo Lopez, I really like. Senga. This is a pitcher room that I like, format wise for sure. But then obviously when you do this, you're going to be hurting somewhere down here. Alonso and then Max Muncy is your 2. I like Muncy actually a lot.
Muncy, I like Dansby a lot.
Dansby's a good fit for this team. And I actually like Will Smith quite a lot. I know he has Ohtani. That's a stack that I think is really good. Will Smith, if you're talking about guys that like, if you're just looking at rate stats, like jumps off the page for like where he goes, like his triple slash for everyone around him, but he catches, so he's not gonna play every day. Yeah, Muncy's cool. Like, yeah, so Dansby Swanson, and like if Stephen Kwan was infield eligible, like this is a good, like, you have your anchor and then you have to just fill in, like, you want your infield 3, and like Dansby's going to be that, at least half the weeks. So it's logical. It's not my favorite infield room, but it's logical. And then Ohtani, Garcia, Jason Dominguez, man. Like, I don't know. You don't have enough PTSD around the Yankees injury staff. Like,
I can't take him.
Yep. Man, it's like a whole family draft. Getting to like everyone's team.
This is interesting. I watched this while I was watching this happen live. He's right next to me, and he really invested in infield.
He sniped a lot of guys that I like. Luis Castillo, like, is it like this room? This is like a fine room. It's like less than I want, but like I think it's okay at pitcher. Investment wise.
You're saying Blake Snell gets his full same run of innings this year?
Well, yeah, he has to pay this off. Otherwise, his room like completely falls apart.
Especially if you're putting Miller and Wu together, who could be just like eventually splitting starts if certain things go, or throughout the season they could split starts.
Yeah. Side tangent, which like I don't know if we should be doing at this stage of this show, but whatever. Like, what are your thoughts on like this is 3 guys from the same rotation, and I've gone back and forth where it's like in the same week you're not going to get 2, 1, like you're going to get Castillo, Miller, and Wu to get 2 starts in the same week, but so like in 1 week you're not going to use more than 1 most of the time, but like this is an interesting one where I've started to sell myself on like round 1 of the playoffs. Castillo is your 2-start guy. And if someone gets 2 starts in round 1, he's not going to get 2 starts in round 2. But the chances that Bryce Miller does goes way up, right? And Brian Wu. So I've actually like sold myself on it of like sort of stacking pitchers and say like you can ping pong the 2-start weeks and almost guarantee it instead of just like saying, everyone has a random chance. You've now increased your chances. What are your guys' thoughts there?
I agree with it, right? I think the question is cost, right? You don't want to do it through Baltimore now, because to do that, you're going to have to really pay up and hope all those guys are going to be a part of like your core. And then you're also going to try to you're going to say that I'm going to eliminate one of their scorers in the playoffs, or not eliminate, but not get the potential ceiling.
Yeah.
So
cheap is a good way to do it here.
Yeah, cheap.
Or the cheap tack-ons, I should say.
And I'm mostly not thinking about it, just because like, I don't think I can, like, yes, you're increasing your percentage chance, but I have no idea what that rotation is going to be by the time we get to the playoffs. Like, I don't know that percentage chance you get is any higher than them even being in the same rotation at that point.
Manager says it's going to be Gilbert and Kirby. I mean, if that's true, they are both smashes. Definitely some fragility there when you're talking about like pitcher injuries and young guys, et cetera, et cetera. Plus, if they're buyers and bring them in, but
specifically about those three, they're all Seattle guys who just on their own have good pitching environment. That I'm more likely to do that for that reason than any ping pong of 2-start weeks.
Yep. Then infield, so this guy's pissed me off. Royce Lewis, who I love, Matt McLean, who I love, Spencer Steer, who I love, in that stack. Nolan Jones, but I was never going to get Nolan Jones. Yeah, I mean, this is a good team that I really like. The infield, outfield looks sexy because the pitcher investment, it's like top heavy-ish, and then you just like fall asleep, and then you like wake up and, you know, slam a couple of, guys. But I think this is a pretty good team. Like, I like this team build a lot. And Machado's guy we talked about before.
Yep.
Billy, I'll go to you later. Chipsky. Let's see. This is just like so unlike Chip. Cole, the early Cole, Jesus Lizard, who I've always liked. Then it's like, you know, this is the window of like, you have to decide, am I taking the young guy who's going to get 120 innings, or am I taking the old guy who's getting 120 innings? Because like one is going to get, you know, innings managed, and the other one's going to get hurt. And like, you know, you end up at the same place. But Musgrove, Berrios, Charlie Morton fit, and Kikuchi for that matter fit that build. I think like this is a fine room. It like looks similar to like my rooms.
Yeah, me too.
That pitcher,
more maybe not a Cole, more like a Wheeler. With these guys is pretty similar to me.
Yeah,
I feel like we've been seeing Chip do a lot of these early pitcher builds, and it's like he must be going through phases, right? Where he does one and then the next and then the next.
Yeah. You got to keep. It's a lot of drafts. So if you find like a theme for a week and then you switch, like I think that's like one way to get naturally like different exposures,
and keep enjoying drafting too.
Yeah, exactly. This is the Baltimore stack: Gunner, Adley, Jackson Holiday, which obviously is fine. Matt Chapman could even get added to that stack if he platoons with like Cedric Mullins or something, which doesn't exactly make sense, but whatever. Jordan's great. Langford, Buxton, Wallner. Yeah, I mean, team's good. I like it. I would say he did put Brad in a bit of a box here.
Took his guy Wyatt.
Yeah. I always said it will spread out strategies, but I will be mostly punting pitcher. Yeah, except for every single draft that I've seen the past week.
He knows you're watching. That's why.
Yeah. Is there any worry with all this min love and how often they pinch hit? Yeah, I for sure have that worry. I for sure have that worry. I don't know if Donovan Solano is gone. Even though he was freaking starting batting third last year.
He's gone. Willie Castro's still there though.
Yeah. And Willie Castro is like not cheap. Like they paid him a little bit. Oh no. Am I confusing him with
Kyle Farmer and Willie Castro? Like they have the guys to do it still, especially if they add a like right-handed center fielder too.
Kyle Farmer. Oh man, Jose Miranda. Yeah. You gotta fire Rocco. That would be great for Bestball. All right, Billy. Tower Glass now, Freddie. Yeah, so this is the why don't you take us through your team and we'll roast it after, but this is the kind of pitcher room that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, the intention was to hold off on pitching until like the 6th round, take someone who's going to be a value in that, and then kind of build it up. As I said, I wanted to do 7. I didn't. Was kind of not really finding the 7th guy, and I took him in the last round, in Griffin Canning. And there's part of me that wants to start doing more of that, just because there'll be guys that are not going to be close to 100% drafted. there, whereas the guys the way that I like to draft will all be drafted. So it's a matter of kind of like, am I going to just be better on structure there?
Yeah.
But yeah, this is that kind of room where I'm going to get the middle part of the draft. And then infield, I really like it. And I really kind of stacked up these teams. Toronto, Tampa Bay, Miami. I got 3 teams that I'm working with here, but really like the infield, Vlad, Bo, Yandy, Trevor Story, hopefully get that bounce back. Edouard Julian. It's been a hot name this year, and Josh Bell to kind of pair with my outfielder in Jazz. And then outfield, I think it gets there when Mookie, Randy Arozarena, Jazz, Varsho fits the Toronto thing, and then Taylor Ward, Rooker, and Parker Meadows has been a guy I've been hitting a lot of. I just think he's going to play a ton because he's so good defensively.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to knock a last round pick. I don't think he's very good, but yeah, he should definitely play, which is fine. And like the Griffin Canning thing, that's super interesting. And like, you know, Reed Detmers is 100% drafted and he's younger and like maybe he's better. And like Patrick Sandoval, I don't know how, like for some reason, like I lump them all similarly. They're like mediocre, like good-ish ballpark, but like the team sucks. Like they're not going to get wins. They're like young-ish and like strikeout-ish, but like, you know, one of them could rise up and be good. Like if I had to bet on any one of them, I wouldn't. But if I had to say like one of Detmers, Canning, or Sandoval like has a good season, like one of them might. Like, and Canning is like completely undrafted, and Sandoval is completely undrafted, and Detmers is 100% drafted.
Yeah,
so that's interesting.
Detmers is profiled as the high ceiling guy, but Canning, I definitely could see Canning doing better over the course of a whole season than Detmers. And I don't have any interest in Sandoval.
Yeah, it's just that's just like a DFS thing. He's like always like 5K or something. Yeah. I sell myself on it. This is a team that's not going to look good because I invested a lot in early pitcher, and those teams are never fun to analyze because our brains just like looking at hitters. Plus, I think this is just like the wrong room to do it, or the room got away from me. Insert excuse, but Strider Burns. It's like the picking 10th in round 3 is tough, where you have to, you know, make a decision on pitcher or, you know, the infielders that are not super sexy. Merrill Kelly, I have a lot of Michael King, former Yankee reliever, ace, turn starter. Really good rate stuff. It's just a matter of does he get the innings. Pivetta and Lance Lynn, I'm just praying for you know 5 innings a week. Could maybe 1 week I get 2 starts. Not much to say.
I don't like Michael King overall, but this is the room to put him in.
Yeah. I don't think he gets to like much over 160, but like he's really good. So right. Maybe, you know, I think at cost it's fine. Lindor, I'm really not excited about, but I feel like that was a panic pick. When I couldn't afford to take another pitcher, I would have been totally buried. And then kind of let this come to me. Christian Walker, really good value. Arenado, you know, we talked about Glaber. I think, you know, he got, you know, everyone loves the Orioles, but they changed their whole freaking ballpark because Glaber Torres had, you know, 2 good weeks, you know, 2 years ago, or actually, no, this is like 2019 when Glaber had like 20 home runs at Camden Yards, but Glaber's pretty sick. Adames, I don't know what he's doing on this team. Nolan Gorman, I really like. McMahon, whatever. But yeah, Kyle Tucker, I did my Cubs thing. Giancarlo. Yeah, this is not my favorite team. I can't lie. But chip in a chair.
Yeah. I like it for how it turned out for that pitching commitment that you did. I think a lot of people would be tempted to go 5 pitchers, but I like that you added the 6th here, even after spending that.
Yeah, it's just part of the thing on the Strider and Burns, we haven't seen it yet, but I think 1 year we're going to have like, there's an ace that has like the 2 start week and it's just like, you know, has a 60% advance rate in the playoff week. and everyone is going to overreact. It hasn't happened yet. It like kind of happened to like Merrill Kelly. If that happened to be Spencer Strider, and it's just like, man, you can't get out of round one or like, playoff round one without him. Like, and then he's less valuable to you in the next round of the playoffs. So that's an interesting thing that's why I'm like still taking the 6th is like, if I burn 2 Strider starts in round one, I mean, he's like not making my roster in round 2 for some reason. He gets like hit around or whatever. Like maybe Lance Lynn saves the day. I don't know. Might be galaxy braiding.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting when the pitching. I don't know because I did not play in the last year's tournament, but if pitching was a 2-start pitcher was the driver of success, and then they were a 0 on the next week, or not a 0 but such a low, not a meaningful number that kind of just like is. Remember, the rest of the field is kind of carrying this guy that is not going to be the driver of success going forward. So that'd be interesting to tease that out from a data perspective.
Yeah, it might be a fun project. But I think you did a good job of like knowing your room. And maybe I'm talking to like a hyper specific audience here, but if you recognize badges and you recognize names and you just know like outfielders going to go up and like this mid range of pitchers, I find outfielders go up in like rounds 2 through 4. I think a little earlier and then it's like everyone starts to panic and it's like, oh man, am I going to get stuck with Lance Lynn? And it's like, all right, let me just draft the pitchers like here. But if you can just stay like half a round ahead of that, I think you did a really good job. Like, as you said, like you took Glass now, like whether you like or don't like him, he was the fallen guy at the beginning, right before, this run. If you just like kind of can control the runs, like reading the room and knowing, which positions the room is about to go to definitely matters. So when you see the badges, just understand, the structure that everyone is kind of following is fairly similar.
Well said.
So, yeah, that's all I've got. That's a lot for February 1st on baseball, but thanks guys for joining me to the chat. Thanks for keeping things interesting and filling this room very quickly. You're welcome for the $10 donation. Thanks, Matt and Billy, for joining the stream.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this was a ton of fun. Down to do it anytime.
Yeah. We'll be back weekly-ish, or as, I get bored and want to do drafts. So open invite if anyone ever wants to draft. Just tag me. I'll be drafting. So cheers, and thanks for coming by.